What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, as always, I'm joined by Shannon
What's up? What's up?
and Chris Abercon.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on? Welcome to another episode. So we record these on a weekly basis. Also, if you tune in, regardless if it's on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area or your podcast platform of choice, we are going to start having 2 episodes because I have a lot of interviews to start putting out there. So you have the Ask CSSP, which will sometimes be the lead on the radio. And then you also have our weekly podcast where we talk about 2 topics and we have a discussion about the latest and greatest cybersecurity news. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from thehackernews.com written by Ravi Lakshmanan. And the title of this one is OpenAI Codex Security scanned 1.2 million commits and found 10,561 high-severity issues, right? So this is becoming a common trend where you're having AI kind of scan for vulnerabilities, right? I don't want to say kind of scanning for vulnerabilities. That's exactly what it's doing, scanning for vulnerabilities, right? So what it is the AI-powered security agent, and it's designed, the actual design of it is to find, validate, propose fixes for vulnerabilities, right? So what you get into when you start seeing these types of things, right, is where's the difference, right? What comes up with this is where's the difference? So what you have is, like, you have your modern security scanners that are out there. They'll find vulnerabilities, right? And they find your criticals, your high, your medium, your low severity things. The context is a little limited, right? So when it comes to actual risk to your specific application, I think that's where AI kind of tries to separate itself. So it's not to say that, and I don't want to say it's not necessarily finding more, but it finds more that's more based off what your business context and risk tolerance is going to be, right? So, and when it comes to the AI, vulnerability scanning, what it does more of is do specific actionable remediation steps, right? It's kind of what it's looking forward to, right? So based off the program that you may be scanning, like, is it one of those things where it's just like, hey, I found this and it may not apply, right? Because you have, like, you may find some operating system vulnerabilities, but it's like, is it in something, an operating system that you're not even using that may not even come to fruition? Or is it specific to whatever you were using for that application to where it actually does, it's more actionable, I should say, for you, right? So it'll tell you with the AI vulnerabilities, it'll tell you if the vulnerabilities are actively being exploited in the wild, even, right? Like, if that's one of the things that's out there as well. But so yeah, I mean, the article talks about, everything that it found. It gives you the numbers, like, hey, and this was and I want to say this was a beta for the Codex Security, or was this actually out there? It's beta, right? Trying to remember from the article.
Yeah, I
It was
think
a
it is
beta
in beta.
implementation. Yeah. So, I mean, this is not something that's out there for everybody, but they are giving, the numbers out there saying it's talking about the declining false positive rates, falling by more than 50% across all repositories. I mean, that's good to see, right? Like, that's a good thing to have, that you're not getting false positives, because you could waste a lot of time on false positives, right? Like, with current tools that are out there, like, I've come across this in my job, right? Where you'll see something where it's like, hey, we found this vulnerability. And when you go to look into it, it's like, hey, okay, we have, whether it be that KB installed, that, what am I trying to say here? That registry setting may not is set or whatever. It's like, okay, why is it hitting on this? Like, what is it finding that may not be accurate? So we spend more time than we want to trying to chase things down that may not be accurate, right? So then it's a matter of, okay, we've done our due diligence. We found that that is not the case. So we either mark it accordingly, saying it's not one, and it doesn't get found for whatever amount of time, right? 90 days, 60 months, 6 months, whatever it may be. But this is supposed to save you that type of time, to where you're not really doing those things. It's saying it's actionable right then, and it is something you're going to use in the application. Chris, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so this is very cool coming from OpenAI, considering that Anthropic released Claude Code a few weeks ago. Big thing about that specific tool and this tool is that they are code scanning. The whole purpose of these products is for AI operationalizing and automating static application security testing, and even, like, essentially this is very dynamic security, application security testing, right? So other vendors that do that are like Snyk. That's the one I'm familiar with. So it's integrated into the CI/CD or continuous integration, continuous deployment process, where software development organizations are always rolling out code, right? And any software SaaS that you see out there it's constantly changing. There's always updates. All the websites that your customer facing websites that have various API integrations, connectors, whatever, those big startups, websites, whatever, they have a team that's consistently making sure that it's operational, making sure APIs and the appropriate connectors and things like that in the code are working appropriately, and also in this case securely. So it's a pretty cool tool, right? And it's, as a fact, like manual security review of code is very time consuming. So automating it with a tool like this is definitely a force multiplier, right, per se, but also consider this is an LLM based AI tool, right? So they still need human approval and human, at least validation. Now, I'm not like an expert on cloud code or anything like that, but we know, as AI tends to hallucinate, right? I don't want it to hallucinate false positives or things like that and make stuff up. But ultimately, as the organizations, companies have to still validate what these outputs are. You gotta own the findings. So if it's AI finding something, it doesn't mean the organization found something. It just says, "Hey, I saw this," but who discloses it? What's the operational line for it? Who's going to actually execute what it's saying and validate what it's saying? And I think ultimately, who's liable, right? So if software organizations are just releasing code, they're using this to scan it, something happens, they're going to say, "Oh, AI did it." Well, ultimately, you are liable because you can't hold AI accountable for that. Chances are there are, what am I trying to say? When you buy this product, when you use this product, there's probably disclaimers like, "Hey, you got to validate what I'm saying." So there's going to be that. And then lastly, my last thought is, how comfortable, again, are organizations with AI agents running the show, right? In this case. So if you're employing it into your enterprise, you got a mature enterprise, are you even willing to let AI just knock this stuff out? I don't know, right? It's going to be based on your risk tolerance. Those are kind of my thoughts. Ryan, what do you think?
Real quick, Ryan, before you jump on. So, Chris, and what you really touched on that I think doesn't happen a lot is the human validation portion, right? So, like, I think it's one of those things where they let AI go and do its thing and just be like, okay, yep, select all, we'll go ahead and implement. It's like you didn't really look like this is supposed to save you some time, right? It's not supposed to be the end all be all. There is supposed to be human intervention, but I know this from articles that come up where it's just like, and we've talked about AI, right? Like, with it being like you call it a force multiplier, right? Remember, it only takes 250, was it 250 lines of code to poison
Hmm.
AI? I think
I think it
it's
was
as
200,
few
250 documents.
documents. There you go. Yeah, like it doesn't take much for it to be poisoned and you not be getting great results anyway. So that extra that extra set of eyes, or that human set of eyes, can also lead you to a problem if that has happened to where you've had the AI poisoning as well. Yeah, human intervention still needs to be a thing.
Yeah, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. There supposed to be a human in the loop. I think that this is welcomed, right? Because it takes some of the tedious parts away from a technician. But I think my fear is that they use it to get rid of entry-level jobs. They use it to expedite things in prod that shouldn't be expedited in the prod, right? Through the use of AI agents. I think as long as it's a force multiplier, like Chris stated, where you have the person who is supposed to be inventorying the software, supposed to be inventorying the hardware, and then looking for vulnerabilities, and they use this as a tool to expedite that to help them find the things they may have missed, then I think that it's welcomed. But what we've been seeing recently is the AI washing, right? Using it to shed headcount, and ultimately it's going to cause issues, right? Like if you were to, Chris's point, if you were to have it scan and then hand it off to an AI agent with no human in the loop, there's a chance it could do damage, and now you're taking yourself down unnecessarily or causing a severe disruption. So that's my only fear. Is like I don't want excuse me, I don't want AI agents to be used in a fashion where they're not being checked upon, right? Like you don't want AI agents to run your incident playbook, right? You don't want them to run your remediation tools and software without validation. Is my fear, because it will cause disruption. Because they'll be like, hey, you know what? This database is corrupt. I'm going to get rid of it. You're like, well, wait a minute. not when users need access to it. And let's validate to make sure that this thing is actually busted. So again, it's not that they're not built to be as sophisticated to do these things. It's that you need a human in the loop, and don't use it as an excuse to shed headcount, because then you'll regret it.
It's happening a lot where they're just using it as an excuse to do so, right?
Yeah, I just
Look,
saw.
go ahead.
I was gonna say I just saw Buddy, what's his name? The guy who was the founder of Twitter. He
Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, he just fired over half of his employees.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or not fired, laid off over half of his employees because he believes that AI could do it better, which it is still to be seen. But I think it's just an excuse.
100% an excuse, especially now. Everybody's saying AI doing it. We all know it's all script, right? AI, they want to make sure that AI still has a level of demand, and they want these. I'm not getting there, but they want money and investments, right?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not going there.
That's a different podcast, Chris.
It's right.
And look, we're only a hop, skip, and a jump from machines building machines, right? Like where it's terminated.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if we just keep taking it at its word and not checking up on it, that's where we're at. Like it's like what's the movie with I'm forgetting the actor's name, Batman. Michael Keaton, was it Multiplicity? Where they created a clone from the clone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't end up with a great product at the end if you do.
Right, exactly. But I give it to you, Shannon, for the next topic.
All right, everybody. So this next one comes from federalnewsnetwork.com, written by Eric Tucker and Alana Durkin Richer. The title of this one is FBI investigating suspicious cyber activity on system holding sensitive surveillance information. So FBI, oh man, investigating sensitive. this one killed me, right? Because I thought we were doing better than this at safeguarding the things that we have, right? So FBI is investigating suspicious activities on an internal system that contains sensitive information related to surveillance operations and investigations, right? So as I start reading this, I got a little worried because I was like, man, you're telling me that we have issues, and I realized on some of the networks when it comes to government networks, they've been infiltrated, right? But to me, I'm thinking this was a little bit of a higher network than what I expected this information to be on. That is not the case. Like it is not protected at the level I thought these types of things would be protected at, which kind of frustrates me a little bit. But they're talking about how, hey, there's some suspicious activity, some log information they didn't like that they saw that led them to believe that there's affected systems, and again, the system's unclassified, but it has law enforcement sensitive information. And this is stuff that's like returns from the legal process, surveillance returns, personally identifiable information, right, pertaining to subjects of FBI investigations, which you figure if somebody's under an FBI investigation, you want to keep that, a little close hold or properly secured, but that is not the case here, right? So I don't know if this is gonna lead to a situation where this information is protected at a higher level, which I know the FBI can get access to. That's not a problem, right? Like the people that work there have to go through the same security clearances that we in the DoD have gone through as former military members. They send people to talk to us to have to show badges and do all that stuff, right? Different agents. Why not do it for the FBI too? But this is a little disheartening, man. Like that we felt that information that we feel so important about when it comes to FBI investigations shouldn't have been protected at a better level. But here we are, right? And the thing is, the reason I think it's so surprising to me is that we've known that on unclassified systems, they've been compromised for years. Like this is not news that we have compromised. This is not even recent news that we've been compromised on unclassified networks. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that they still felt the need, okay, to not change it up years and years and years ago. Like I can remember this being a thing when I was still active, right? We're talking 7 years ago. You know what I'm saying? It's a little, like I said, disheartening is what I'm going to stick with, right? I'm not trying to go down a path. I'm not trying to join Chris down that path going on to the other, podcasts or anything like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't like the way this went down. I don't like how it is, the setup. But again, this may be what sparks the change. And it's sad that this is how it often happens, right? Like you have to wait for something like this to happen before you get the change that should have been there in the first. But again, I don't work for the FBI. I'm not in the know to know how all the inner workings of that work. Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
So I'm going to be opposite. I'm going to say I'm going to give the FBI a little bit more leeway, like simply because the last sentence of this article says the techniques were sophisticated and included leveraging a commercial internet service provider's vendor infrastructure to exploit FBI security controls. This to me sounds, obviously this is APT activity, no doubt, right? And we have to consider the fact that who are the biggest internet service providers to the government? Probably AT&T, Verizon, and everything, right? And what happened last year or 2 years, Salt Typhoon, right? So they were able to breach those telecom organizations, and you don't know the extent of what an APT ultimately, has infiltrated, right? So there's a lot. This to me seems like some type of advanced supply chain attack, right? That only APTs can handle. And one thing too, right? So I want to say that this is probably a wiretap or surveillance network, right? This network is going to be more at risk because of where it resides. When we were in the military, we were on like classified information that was completely segmented via cryptography and all that crap, right? This is closer to the action. So to me, right, how can you surveil at a higher classification system?
I don't think it's the actual surveillance though. So the way I read it, it's not the actual surveillance itself, right? Like, and again, I get that would be more important things, right? But like if this is where you're putting the information that someone is about to be under investigation, like that's something important, right? Like you don't come out, like the FBI doesn't even come out publicly and say those types of things. You know what I mean? They don't come out and say, yes, we are publicly investigating someone. They're like, hey, we have no comment about that. We don't comment on open investigations. So why make it easy to find that information? You know what I mean?
But it isn't easy. They had to go through a supply chain attack to get through this, right?
It's easy if you have to rely. Go ahead.
They're talking about like, here's a pen register as a common surveillance tool that enables to log phone numbers, right? So when you're at that layer, I just think that this system has more inherent risk than what we use in the military, right? In my opinion, that's just
you can only control so much when you have to rely on an ISP, right? Like you're only going to get so much, right? They're going to do up to this point, and you have from this part going in, right? But you usually, and we know how the networks are set up, right? Like your ISP is going to provide to this point, then you have, your carrier switch, your firewall.
It's wrapped around crypto,
right?
Right.
You got a KG, yes. But like if you're going to rely on them, right? Like how are you making sure? Because we as a country have not done a good job of holding these ISPs accountable for the things that have happened on their watch, right? When it comes to, and we've reported on, right? Like the different APTs that have come in and done what they've done, right? Like, so if that is the case, and you only control so much, you're like, okay, yeah, I got it locked in from the tack lane to this point, like this is all good right here.
Yeah.
But again, you are still relying on somebody else. Like
how can you as a government impose military grade requirements on ISPs that serve common people?
But that's my point, is to not allow it to stay at that level. That's my thing. So like for the things that they have, even for us, right? Like, yes, we rely on ISPs when it comes to the DoD, right? But there are certain things that, okay, when it gets to this point, like that information needs to be taken and put somewhere else. Right? We have those other networks that we make sure are guarded at a different level. And yes, they may ride on a different network that may not be as secure, but you are still providing security, at those levels. I just think that some of this information, and I get some of it is trivial, right? Like some of the stuff down there is like, okay, it's not a lot.
So the reason why I'm like defending the FBI is because I've seen FBI requirements. They're based off of NIST 853. They're very irritating and annoying, right? So the thing is,
that's the national standard.
If the APT was able to get in through the third party, right? How is it through advanced, sophisticated hacking mechanisms, means, right? Then I mean, it sucks, but like this is one of those things where the perpetrator has the advantage, right? There's just no way you can anticipate unless you have full control of the supply chain. Like, hey, I know what ISP I'm using. This is a private ISP, blah, 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 right? But again, where this system lives, in my opinion, it's just going to have more inherent risk. It lives in an unclassified environment. In an unclassified environment, we all know Nipper was probably freaking compromised. We know Nipper on military is already probably Russia and China already know stupid emails on Nipper, right?
100%. And that's what I'm talking about. Is like, guys, that was stuff that was happening when we were still in. You know what I mean? Like that is not recent. You know what I mean? So like because it's unclassified, like there are less precautions they have to take and less precautions they will take to safeguard that information. That's what
Mhm.
I'm saying. Like it just seems like it. And again, I speak of this from the DoD level, right? Like you guys always have to bring me into reality of how the world works, right? Because of how I operate and still operate when I got out. And maybe this is par for the course, but as I read it and I see what it is, I'm like, you do not want to. You do not want to let the cat out of the bag for some of these investigations because the investigations may not necessarily be just American citizens, right? Like it's the FBI because the FBI does multinational, what am I trying to say? Like,
That's a good point. Absolutely.
coordination all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just stuff that's American citizens. So like you don't want to let the cat out of the bag that hey, we're looking at Russia for this, we're looking at China for this, or whatever it may be. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But
Yeah,
no, I hear what you're saying, Chris. I
yeah.
understand what you're saying. I feel differently about it.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I just think that it's unrealistic to have surveillance infrastructure that's air gapped. It makes no sense. It's got to live in the danger zone, man. It's got to be in the danger zone. Ryan, what are your thoughts before I, keep ranting about?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a TPRM problem, right? Third party risk management, and everybody seems to be failing at it recently, or at least over the past couple of years. Because we did talk about. Because remember when I sent the article to you guys, I was like, didn't this happen already? It was I was thinking about the AT&T breach,
Yeah,
where
AT&T
they
bridge. Yeah,
yeah
that
where
was a while ago.
for the wiretapping systems and things of that nature. So it's probably par for the course. It's probably one is tied to the other. So I was looking up when you guys were talking. I was like, can FBI use Type 1 encryptors? Said certain situations they have authorities where they can get their hands on NSA grade encryption, but not for the most part. It's not like being in the DoD where they can use that. So I was like, well then, to Shannon's point, then why is this not segmented, air gapped, things of that nature? But I think Chris does have a good point. I'm playing devil's advocate, right? I think Chris does have a good point though that these systems need to be a little bit closer to said danger zone to collect information and store the things of that nature. But with that comes inherent risk. So what is the FBI's risk appetite? You would think it would be because the DoD's is very much non-existent. You know what I mean? Like we'll slap some Type 1 encryptors on
See,
everything.
yeah, DoD's got the luxury of let's just go to this room over here so we can talk, and then let's get on
Right.
this specific information system so we can send emails on this specific topic we can't talk about here. Right? That's very nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Right?
and every movie I've seen is very easy to break into the FBI and the CIA.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. Get behind the
Every
firewall.
yeah, every single movie they just log right in. So yeah, I think what's going to have to happen is some semblance of a mature model like CMMC or something like that being used um, for these government agencies, just like we do with the DoD and its contractors, right? Because it does come down to the supply chain. It does come down to third party and fourth party risk management. We got in this situation, so there's going to have to be some shuffling and restructuring in order to better protect that information. I mean, to Shannon's point, like we're more reactive than proactive. So in this situation, now we're going to have to fix it and try to protect for the future. But whatever they got, they got. So
Change though. Like so based off what they so here's my question then. So based off how they operate now, if you keep having instances of things like this happening, is the policy not going to change? Right? Like they could change the policy if there is a need for it. And honestly, I don't know the numbers, right, on what the FBI employs, but I know it's not the amount of they don't have the amount of bases, they don't have the amount of infrastructure support like we do in DoD, right? So
right.
if we had to take the precautions we do, it would not be as much to apply that security on a smaller scale.
I don't
And
think it's a
again,
policy change. I think the policy is probably already clearly outlined. But like if you're talking about if we read through, like for example, the SR controls in 853, they explicitly talk about stuff like tamper evident, making sure there's
Right.
a huge detail. There's a lot of detail that goes into that,
yeah,
right? But ultimately,
chain
I,
of
I
evidence.
think, yeah. But ultimately, it's like you don't know what you don't know. You cannot control what you can't from the third party risk perspective, and even fourth party, fifth party risk,
Right.
right? You don't know the suppliers for AT&T. What are they doing, right?
So
So
here,
there's like
Which they
it's just a
should.
they
Yeah.
should, right? They absolutely should. But that's the challenge that we face today. It's third party, fourth party, fifth party cascading effects. Somebody 15 layers down from AT&T is compromised. These APTs can, worm their way
But
up the chain,
right.
right?
But my only argument to that would be like in the corporate or yeah, in the corporate sector, there's some leeway there because sometimes it's hard to make a company like AT&T or so on and so forth provide you the information you're looking for. So it's a little bit harder to hold them accountable when you're a civilian corporation, unless you're a
Then
trillion
it's
dollar
your
corporation.
responsibility. But then
Right.
it's your
But
responsibility to secure it appropriately.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you got a contract, they're going to hire a lawyer and say, "Hey, this wasn't in the contract. You should make it clear," because that's how
yeah,
America works, right? They're going to have some fancy lawyer that's going to like literally say, "Hey, we didn't do anything wrong. We're doing exactly everything to specs based to your contract." Right
right. And I would say that
And this is what I talk about when I
yeah,
say
right?
y'all bring me into the real world, right? Because like for me, when I'm answering that control, like when I'm looking at SR, when I have to answer that control for those things, there is a SCA, AO ultimately that says, yes, we agree with the answer that you provided, and that is enough. If it
Yes.
is not, they come back to me and say, no, you need to do a better job. And again, I know I try to do my best. Believe me, guys, I do try to not to relate it to what I experience in the DoD, right? But
Yeah.
like, it just doesn't seem real to me. You know what I mean? Because
right.
it's been 27 years of dealing with the Department of Defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think it comes down to funding as well, right? Where's your money coming from? So when it comes to the Department of Defense, right? Like the constituents and the stakeholders should be us, right? The public. However, they tell us shut up, color. But when it comes to corporations, it's different, right? Like anything that's cost center is under scrutiny. So they're like, hey, we're bleeding here, so do as best as you can with what you have to a certain extent, and then
So
that's where they cut it off at.
cost center basically means it exists operationally and doesn't provide revenue.
Right.
So
Profit center versus cost center. Yeah.
cybersecurity is considered a cost center. It's like we got to pay for this.
Yeah. Unless you're MSP or
Yeah,
MSSP
exactly.
who are providing those services, but even still, which is weird because it's a double effect. You'll have your operational services are profit center, but then your own cybersecurity would be cost center.
You see,
So
we're biased. Cybersecurity to us I mean, it is a business enabler, right? To us, right? Because this more secure your systems, you have something called trust. You want to trust an organization, and that's the best product. First product you should at least that should be at the top of your menu as an organization. Trust.
And it's the same thing. It's
Yeah,
the same thing we talk about all the time is that you'll realize it when you have a hit and you're losing $500,000 a day for whatever reason, right? Like
exactly.
you've been owned and this is what happens.
yeah, but you hope that you hedge your bets between your contracts,
And your
which hold
cyber
some money,
insurance,
and your cyber
yay,
insurance, and there's something
yep.
called subrogation, right? So subrogation, I'm not a lawyer, people, but subrogation allows insurers to go after parties that are at fault. So if you're covered by cyber insurance and you did nothing wrong as the entity, then the cyber insurance will pay out to you, and then they'll go after your third, fourth, fifth party to try to recoup that money for themselves. So it's a whole game where risk is just being shuffled around in order to cover people's bases. The advantage the Department of War has is that they have almost infinite money. They don't have to do as much shuffling as the rest of the civilians out there. But I digress. I give it to you, Shannon, for the discussion.
All right, everybody. So the discussion for this one actually comes from whitehouse.gov. So it's President Trump's cyber strategy for America, right? And this is new as of March of 2026, right? So, um, it starts out, um, and it's a little braggy, right? It says over the past year, the United States has shown the entire world that we have the most powerful, sophisticated, and technologically advanced military on earth. And it is not even close, right? It's like, okay, I mean, I get it, right? I get what you're trying to say here, but what this is the strategy, the cyber strategy, which I like to see, right? That there is some attention being paid to it, but this is just a strategy, right? This does not go into the ins and outs of how we're going to implement these things. That still leaves something to be desired on how it's going to be implemented across the board, right? But it brings up the pillars of action, right? Which are shape adversary behavior, right? Promote common sense regulation, which that one kind of stands out to me, right? Because what one, I don't want to get into politics here, but one political party may deem, is common sense. Another one may not, right? But
Common sense ain't.
it's not always common, right? Like that is the case, but so that could leave something to be desired, right? And like going forward with this, that could change between administrations, right? Like we say this is common sense, they say this is common sense, whatever it needs to be, but it's promoting common sense regulation. The third one is modernize and secure federal government networks. Of course, like we always want to do that, right? I figured that was something you were always trying to do anyway, right? and secure critical infrastructure, which we've even seen that going back to the previous administration. That was something that they took a real interest in, right? Like for their critical infrastructure thing, it was like 16 pillars or something like that, wasn't it? It was a lot more or something they did. I can't remember exactly what it was in the previous administration, but it was a big goal for them. Sustain superiority in critical and emerging technologies. I get that, right? And then build talent and capacity. Okay, so yeah, so they have a conclusion on here. It says, hey, the pursuance in cyberspace, the direction the U.S. government will pursue with increasing impact. They're saying they're going to go forward with it. Again, this is only a 5-page document, right, of actual, what am I trying to say here, strategy of what it says it's going to do. Yes, I do like that this is something that they've come out with and said that they want to do. But again, it still leaves something to be desired on how it's going to be done. This does not have the ins and outs. Right? Strategy never does. Like strategy is always from that high 30,000 foot view, right? You know what I mean? To where it's like, hey, this is what we say it's gonna be. Right? Every organization you run with this, how you will, right? How are you going to implement this, right? Still leaves something to be desired, but I'm glad the word cyber strategy is coming out of the administration's mouth, right? It's something that they need to look forward to. But again, leave something to be desired. Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
Quick thoughts. I think this is a strategic shift for the administration to, I think more offensively and less defensively, at least from the private sector perspective. I think there is some type of incentivizing of the private sector to conduct offensive operations at some layer, right? So, I mean, there's questionable legality and authority and risk involved with that. And I don't know if private sector wants to get into that from that standpoint, right? So that's just a very interesting way to put that. Maybe it means Cyber Command working with more private organizations in that regard, which could be very advantageous, right? I don't know, like the team at Mandiant and Cybercom already talking. I don't know, right? That would be kind of cool. So there is some potential on that. One thing too is I think next point was that I would like to talk about is the cybersecurity and data regulations, right? So we know CMMC is the Department of Defense, right? The Department of War. Really, it's their cyber TPRM program, right? For all these vendors and contracts and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they mean by streamlining it, right? So we know in government-wide, we got FedRAMP as well. So FedRAMP is actually working on streamlining their authorization process through X, right? If you're familiar with FedRAMP 20X, it's going to go more into leverage automation, APIs, and things like that. So there is that's happening. And I do think this is just kind of a regurgitation of what's going on. I do think that there is a streamlining of cybersecurity standards and things like that. But I think also it would require, the NIST, CISA, and the whole host of frameworks out there to maybe create some type of unified control framework, right? That'd be kind of cool, right? If there's something that we can all get together, streamline something that makes more sense for the masses instead of just throwing 853 at everybody, and select your baseline. I don't know what's a baseline. What does that mean? So, it would make sense, right? And I do think that there is value to that, right? If we streamlined and we're able to translate, we're just talking about AT&T, right? Those government examples and that lingo into what private sector is doing, it would be beneficial to small businesses as well, where it's like, oh, these are just real world things that we can apply to our organization, right? And then lastly, I wanted to talk about, I did say CISA, right? I do think there is some, maybe what's the word? Not apprehension, but unclarity. Let's say fogginess, right? Fog of war with CISA as they're being quote unquote gutted, right? They have a lot of high level people left. We all know, so there is that there as well. So I do want to know if there's coordination at some point with CISA and the DoD. At least I hope that those communication lines are completely severed. And the breach timing, right? This is kind of with FBI talking about what happened. This is kind of, that these were released on the same week is kind of crazy, right? So there's a cybersecurity strategy, and then now you've got FBI happening here. They want to impose, administration wants to impose consequences on adversaries. What does that mean? We don't know. right? Maybe so those offensive security capabilities. So I would say this is kind of a shift, but I do think that there is a theme of the public and private innovation. I think melding. I think that's one of the central themes of this administration. So those are my thoughts. Ryan, what do you think?
Quick round. I'm sorry to do it to you again. So Chris, I'm curious now, right? So like, I'm pretty sure you brought this up before, right? When it comes to the melding of the government and some of these civilian companies, like how deep do they want to get? I don't want to say get in bed with the government, but like when you start doing that and you start becoming offensive, I'm pretty sure it was you that brought this up. It was a while ago. Are the companies going to want to put themselves at risk? Because at that point, then you're a target, right? When it comes to these foreign countries. Like if it comes out that, let's say Microsoft is doing, and we know Microsoft provides stuff
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
everybody, right?
I remember that article too, where there was a vulnerability with Microsoft. Yeah, I remember that.
So like at what point does it become these civilian companies are like, well, we don't want to have a hand in that, right? Like we don't want to participate. Like where does it go from there? But we don't want to become a target of China, Russia directly. You know what I mean? Not one of those things where they're just doing something they've done to everybody else, but they've specifically targeted our servers in Washington, you know what I mean, at our headquarters or whatever it may be. And I see what you're saying with what they're trying to go to is that it does seem like they're trying to get the civilians to come in, the civilian world to come into this game a little bit more. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
I mean,
saying?
I can't. I don't know how to answer that because I think it ultimately depends on who's in charge of these organizations and whatever political leanings they may have or may not have at the time, right? So it's also like a business risk, right? So it's ultimately that like there could be an exec that says, "Hey, we're not doing this." Same with what Anthropic did with with DoD, right? So it's ultimately like a decision on the organization if they want to participate or not. And I think they have a right. I think absolutely. Now, unless DoD is like, oh, we're just going to buy you out, and then I'm sure that I don't know if that's even. I don't think that's going to be
Slippery slope.
that's slippery slope, right? But I'm again, I don't think that's for this podcast.
Right.
Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, that's good. That's good context. Yeah. So I think it's nice, like they pushed this out, right? It's like bless their heart. But ultimately, yeah, it's a business decision, and they're not going to take a business risk based upon the government's push, right? It's a chilling effect. So there's been some things that have happened, like with Anthropic, right, where you become a supply chain risk and pretty much get exiled from contracts and things of that nature. But that's coercion, right? So that's you can have a legal defense against that. In this case, what I think they're trying to do, right, especially when it comes to strategy, is very broad. We want you to, basically figure out how you're going to fulfill the strategy, right? It's like Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent forest fires, right? They're trying to push these companies into better protecting themselves and protecting American people. But it all comes down to incentives, right? Bottom line, what are you going to do, government, in order to incentivize us to do this? Because we're not going to do it on our own because it costs money. So either you're going to give me some money or you're going to force me to do it through regulation. But either way, I'm just going to sit here and stare at you and see what everybody else does and not make any moves. So it's going to take years for this to move forward unless the government comes in and says, here's how we were going to help you to make this happen, critical infrastructure that's privately owned, because that seems to be the case in a lot of when it comes to water and power, they're not nationally owned, right? They're not nationalized. These are, for the most part, these are private companies that have boards and have stakeholders and investors. So no, we're not going to do anything that disrupts line going up, right? In order to protect people better in this capacity. So I don't know what they're going to do. I would hope that they have a strategy beyond this broad blanket to say, here's how the government is going to fund or help you to do these things. But I doubt it. Not just because of this administration, but just all administrations in general. Like, where's the money at? Is how these companies are probably feeling. But that's just my 2 cents. Sorry, people. I'd be doom and gloom.
Usually we always say this when we get off, but this is a good week, fellas. Like these stories were awesome.
Yeah.
The back and forth we've had and everything.
Yeah, no doubt.
People usually when we get off is when we're like, oh yeah, that was good stuff right there, boy. Oh, this, that, and third. But like, I'm letting y'all know this was good stuff. Like, and again, like, and you saw it this week, everybody. Like, it's not always agreement with everybody, right? Like, not everybody feels the same about the article or where it's going. That makes for the good conversation, right? And it's what makes for good listening, right? Which is why y'all should keep coming back.
There it is. Yeah. Come back. Is he doing the Dave Chappelle when he's Rick James?
Give it to me, baby.
But I give it back to you, Shannon. How was your week?
It was good. I can't complain. I'm still going through rehab. You know what I mean? Not rehab, physical therapy. I shouldn't say rehab. It's always a negative connotation when you say
I
rehab.
got the Amy Winehouse song in my head now.
Everybody did. So that was good. Doing that twice a week, making sure to get better, right? So I can get back in this game and try to be a young guy again. But TV watching. So let's see. What did I take part of? So I watched War Machine. I don't know if you guys saw the Netflix movie with the.
No, is it good?
They'll always be Reacher to me. It's good.
Okay.
I won't
People
complain, but
hype it.
you gotta go into it knowing what you're gonna see though, right? Like you're gonna see if you watch the trailers, it's a bunch of that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's like
Okay.
don't expect a lot of story. Don't expect there to be a lot of going into why things are the way they are, right? It's
Mm.
like hit the ground running. This is what happened, and this is what comes from it. So if you know what you're getting into, it's a good watch. But yeah, it was good. I watched Predator Killer of Killers with three different stories in it,
Yeah.
the animated one with the three different stories. I liked it. I liked
Okay.
it. I would say you had seen it before, right, Ryan? Like
Yeah.
you had
Yeah. I
seen Killer
really
of Killers.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. So I was like, huh, okay. And they definitely left it open to do some more, right? Like the way it ends, and they got an end credit or after credit scene. So yeah, it was pretty good. I
You've seen
got back.
Badlands though, right? You've
I
seen
haven't seen
Badlands?
Badlands yet. It's in the queue.
That's good too.
It's
Yeah.
in the queue, and I was gonna watch it after watching that one, but I was like, it's getting kind of late. I was like, let me go to bed. You know what I mean? So yeah, Badlands will be one that gets watched soon. And again, it's in the queue, so it's not like it's not something I'm gonna watch. I like the trailer, so it'll be good to go. Did you like Badlands or no? You
Yeah.
seen
I really
Badlands?
enjoyed it.
Okay,
Mm.
okay, all right, yeah. So
Yeah. They've been on a streak, man, with Prey, Killers,
yeah,
Badlands. I think they've been doing a really good job.
yeah, they haven't had a mission. Okay, in those last three, that's
But
good.
those are all the same director, by the way.
So I was gonna
Yeah.
say the director of this one was the same one from Prey.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
that's
and
the
he's the
same
same
person.
director for Badlands. Yeah.
Badlands. Okay. All right.
So
So
I think it's in good hands. He does a good job.
yeah, yeah. Okay. We'll see if that continues, right? It might be one of those things where, like, when you start having success, all of a sudden you're very much in demand, and then you may not be able to stay with those projects that you
Right.
that you liked or that got you to that point, right? So we may start seeing them do other major budget stuff. Maybe it'll be one of those things where one of these major studios wants to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at them, and then be like, all right, make something happen. So we'll see. The other thing I did is I finished out watching because I had stopped watching it because I didn't like the direction it was going in, but the Gentleman TV series. So there's the Gentleman, the movie with Matthew McConaughey and Colin Farrell, but this one is the TV series. So it's 8 episodes. I stopped watching because it got to a point. I'll put it out. There's older now to where I'm not spoiling anything, but the brother that did not become the Duke when the Lord died or whatever, like was really annoying me. It was really annoying me that his brother that became the Duke had to keep fixing his messes, and it was really getting to me. Like I realized this is fiction. I can separate fact from fiction, everybody. I really can. But like it was getting to me where I was like, I am sick of seeing this. You know what I mean? And the brother he had no compunction about it. And then every once in a while he'd be like, oh, I realized I messed up. And every once in a while you got to save me. Like, no, he's constantly saving me. You know what I mean? So I had stopped watching, but then I was like, let me get back into this because I saw that there was a season 2 coming. I was like, let me go ahead and get through this. And then as I started to pick it up again, it was less of the brother. So I was like, oh, okay, I can get down now. Like that's not annoying me as much. And then at the end of the series, at the end of the season, he starts coming back, and I'm like, oh, this is what I didn't like. And my wife was sitting down with me for one episode, and I'm complaining to her while watching it. She's like, I haven't seen any of this, so I don't know what you're talking about, but whatever. So watch The Gentleman. That was kind of it. I haven't been doing a lot of TV watching. I haven't. I need to get back on my games. Like I still haven't finished Yote. Like I'm at when I look at the stats for it, I'm at 90% complete with like 71 or 72 hours or something like that. So I'm like, I'm near the end. I've gone
Yeah,
I've
you're right.
gone this
You're right.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go ahead and just make it happen. So like there'll probably be a point this week where I'm like, all right, let me pick this up again and try to remember the controls, right? Because I want to say it's been close to 3 months
Yeah.
since I picked it up. So I'm like, let me try to remember how to switch back between all this stuff. But yeah, that's been it for me. Nothing too glamorous this way. What about you, Chris?
Nothing really glamorous for me either. Let's see. We've been watching an anime called Spy X Family on Crunchyroll. It's pretty funny. I love it. It's really silly, and it's nice to see. It's got a cool story too, and it's got a unique element in it. So I really recommend that if you like. It's actually almost like family friendly. It's pretty funny. So that's what we've been kind of watching. We're watching some British shows, of course, on the BritBox. So those are always good. They come out with Christmas shows, or rather, British TV shows have like the way they do their cycles, right? They have like a Christmas special usually, where something happens around Christmas time, and it's like an interlude, right? And then the real season comes out like springtime, like right now or in March. So they have that. So they do like American TV shows do it too, where like there's at least I remember in the past where they have like a Christmas special, right? So they still do that in the UK, which is pretty cool. So, we've been kind of catching up with our shows and the Christmas specials there. So that's pretty cool. And then on games, I've just been playing World of Warcraft Midnight. It came out early this month, and it's freaking awesome. it's
That's the
it's
latest
great.
expansion.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fantastic. So I think they've done a really good job with like quest design. Plot is really good compared to last expansion. I think also like the design of, in WoW you got like a hub or city. It's called Silvermoon this time, and it's fantastic. It's just beautifully designed. I think it's great. I play warrior, so it doesn't probably any WoW players. I'm a warrior play. I play warrior or death knight. I like the melee classes, right? So in Diablo, same thing. I play warrior, right? So that's all I've been doing, right? But really, I'm still leveling up. Max levels are 90. I'm at like 89 actually, so I'm almost
Okay, you're right there.
there.
Yeah.
Not too, the campaign is not too long either, so it's pretty compelling. So it's fun. If you want to try it, I always recommend giving it a shot. There's always like the people that like to play classic. I actually enjoy that as well, but I just don't got the time for classic, guys. Sorry, classic takes too long. I got to walk 20 minutes to get to a quest. Like I can't do that.
Right.
I don't got 2006 time. 2005 time when I was in in school, right? So that's been my few weeks rather.
Okay.
So, Chris, question for you, man. Like you've mentioned it a couple of times. Like you and your wife watch BritBox, right? Like so, that's a different streaming service, right?
That's correct.
BritBox is everything. The stuff that's on BritBox, is that released on other streaming channels, or is it specific
Some
to
stuff
BritBox?
is, some
Okay.
stuff is, but a lot of it's from like the BBC channel, and then there's also originals which we really enjoy. For example, all the Jane Austen books, like they've got like the American versions or the more popular versions on Netflix, but they've got like the British and like some other versions in BritBox, right? So they've got more variations of that. They're like they'll have like a original version of it too, that's specific to the streaming service, and I think they have a partnership with the BBC. So it's the streaming service for the UK, and it's also cheaper. It's like $9 a month, $8 a month.
So I asked because my wife loves those British shows, right? Like
she would like it. Yeah.
That's why I'm asking, because like the little bit, like whenever we're watching stuff together, like I don't have BritBox, and I'm not usually watching anything that's British like that, right? I say that even though the gentleman was over in London, but so like I'm curious if it's worth the investment for her, right? Like it's one of those things where it's like,
you
I got this.
can give the trial a shot. She might like it, right? You can sign up for a free trial and then just cancel before it starts billing. So I think she'll actually enjoy it if she likes British shows, because there's a shit ton of them, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So
Curiosity thing.
My bad. That's funny.
No, it's all good. So I've really been well, I say that, but yeah, I guess I did consume a lot. So I finished studying for my exam. So the ISAC Advanced in AI Risk. I really like the material. Like it really solidified a lot of stuff that I do in risk currently. A little bit of cyber, but I learned a lot of AI terminology, things like subrogation. I learned that term studying there, right? Took it, did not get a score because I'm in the beta. So it's the first time I've been in the beta. So you know how your heart starts racing. You're like, oh, did I pass? Did I pass? Did I pass? I felt pretty good. And then it was like, and to be continued. We'll tell you once we have made thresholds for what pass fail is. I'm like, So we'll see in the next week or so what my score was. So that's out of the way. So I jumped on video games. So I got Resident Evil 9, or AKA Resident Evil Requiem. I'm right at the end. It's a pretty short campaign. Lots of fun. Really enjoying it. I've been sending you guys beams about it. But I think it's a really good marriage between classic Resident Evil and the the new style of Resident Evil, where it's more action oriented. It plays two different protagonists. Grace, who's like a green FBI agent. She's supposed to be behind the desk, but they put her in the field, so she's very much not not built for this, but she's learning. And then Leon, which is grizzly 50-year-old man now. He's just mowing down the zombies, so it's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. I think I have about an hour left of it, and then I'll probably play through it again because it is a lot of fun. I've learned a lot of stuff because you continuously learn as you get through it, and I'm just like, oh man, I could do this, I could do that. So when I go back through, oh, they have no chance mowing through them.
You're gonna go right through it like right after you complete it again? Just start it
Probably,
back up
yeah,
again? Really?
yeah, because they usually get unlocks too, right? Like when you beat Resident Evil games, they usually give you a bunch of stuff to go back in there, just so you can just destroy. Because it's no longer scary. You know where the scares are at. So now let's just give you the tools to wreak havoc. So I'll probably play through it again immediately.
How long is the story? Like how many hours?
Like 10 or 12.
What?
Yes, it's really short. Yeah,
That's not enjoyable to me.
That's great. So I say it's great for a horror game. You don't want to be scared for 80 to 100 hours. That's too much.
I want to get to the point where I want to turn my lights on in my house in the daytime. That's what I need.
It's too much. They can't hold the scare for that long. But I really thoroughly been enjoying it. I think they did a really good job. And then aside from that, I watched this movie called Eternity. So it is like a rom-com, right? Or I guess just maybe a romance movie. I don't know. But I tried to put my wife onto it. We watched it. I wound up enjoying it more than she did because I like afterlife stuff, right? So it, not giving it away, it's in the trailer, but it's Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, and Callum Turner. So they all die, right? So like the one husband, Luke, died in the war, so they were only married for a short period of time. And then the other husband, Larry, was married to her for 67 years. So now Joanne finally passes away, and she meets both of them in afterlife. And it's like this junction between where it's like limbo, right? It's like you get to pick your afterlife. So now she has to decide which afterlife she wants. She's going to go with first husband or longest husband. And then it goes off from there, and they're both fighting for her love and all that stuff.
Dude, so even though she was with the other guy for 67 years, like when I see the trailer, they're
Yeah.
all their young selves.
Yeah, so when you in this movie's concept, you look like your happiest. So whatever your happiest time was is what you look like. So that's why they I think Larry is 35, she's in her 20s, and Luke, because he died so young, and they constantly make fun of, like, so Luke is like perfect, right? Like he's supposed to be like super attractive and like the perfect gentleman or whatever. But every time he says he died in the war, people say like World War One or World War Two, and he's like, no, Korea. So they just keep making fun of the Korean War. So it's just like that's kind of funny.
That's funny.
He was like, it's a war too, like, but I thought it was good. I like stuff like that, like afterlife stuff. I find it entertaining. My wife was just like, she guessed it right off the rip. She already knew the ending 10 minutes into the movie. So I was like, okay, she was right. And then I did finish a TV show. So I'm watching Survivor 50. That's fun. Like people, because Survivor goes in 2 cycles. So Survivor 50 is actually the 25th anniversary. So they have people from the first episode competing against people from the very recent episode. And surprisingly, it's pretty balanced. So you think that, yeah, like, because
most people got to be in their 50s at this point.
They are. So like they might not be beasts in the physical game. Some of them still are though. That was just crazy. But the social game, right? Because they're a little bit more mature. So it's pretty well balanced. Like they're still getting at them. I'm very surprised at some people who got out first. Versus some people who are still in there. And one of the dudes from Survivor, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's an actor from White Lotus. He's a comedian. But he didn't start off as an actor. He started off on Survivor now, or maybe but like a young actor or whatever. But now, so he's back, and it's funny because he is older, but when he took his shirt off, he's like he's got to be like mid-50s, 60s, like ripped, and they just keep making White Lotus jokes at him.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I was like, it's pretty funny. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it.
Have you kept up with The Pit? Like I haven't had a chance to watch it. Like my wife
Yep.
and I both got to watch it together, and we just haven't had the time to sit down together.
Yeah, I think they're on 3 p.m. is this episode.
Okay.
So like 2 p.m. was kind of boring, to be honest with you. But 3 p.m. picks right back up. Just a
Okay.
little. It was just a little low, but yeah, they're right back at it. So I'm enjoying it, and it directly ties. Not to give anything away, but it directly ties into the stuff we talk about all the time on the podcast, right? So a little element of what we do is sprinkled in there too.
That's the last one I watched. That's the last
Oh,
one I
okay.
caught.
So you
I
so
think
you're
I'm
like
behind
you're
by
like two
two.
behind. Yeah, you're two
Yeah, I'm
behind
behind
then.
by two. Yeah,
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 yeah.
I'm two.
So I don't think I'm giving anything away. So they are trying to avoid a cyber attack in the middle of the season. So it shows how hospitals have transformed. Because when I'm watching, I'm just like, yeah, I've seen this before. But I'm remembering the old ER show, the old Grey's Anatomy before everything got modernized, right? I've been watching these medical shows for like a couple decades now. So I'm like, oh yeah, they don't do that anymore. Like the way they chart and the way they document is all electronic now. How do you how like so it shows the difference between the people who've been in the medical field for decades versus the newbies and how they handle um, going back. Like one doctor references being in the Stone Age, right? Because yeah, they've lost a lot of telemetry and a lot of advancements because they're trying to avoid being, the subject of cyber attack. So I think it's pretty good. Like I always enjoy the show. I always enjoy like all the medical stuff they do, and then I watch a show after that show that is a doctor watching them perform the procedures, and like 99.9% of the time he agrees with it. You're like, yep, that's what you do. Yep, that's what you do. Every now and then he was like, nah, that's not realistic. So I think it's pretty
Is it
good. And
Dr. Mike? Is it Dr. Mike? Got the glasses?
no, it's a different
Okay.
doctor. It's
Okay.
a Canadian doctor. So he's licensed in America and Canada, but he practices in Canada. So he'll also bring up stuff that just doesn't make sense from a Canadian perspective. You're like, oh yeah, we want to do that or we want to do this because, the medicine's free here for, and then so it gives a little bit more of a insight into how the rest of the world does medicine. So interesting stuff. But that's pretty much it for me. It's a pretty good time to be off of studying. As soon as I get the score, though, I'm going to jump right back into. I want to start studying for my CCP. I want to be like Chris one day. So, and I'm trying to get my employer to pay for it. So we'll see how it goes. But if I pass this, they'll give them more reason to allow me to spend more funds to do that. So fingers crossed. But that pretty much wraps it up for us. So please continue to check us out on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, as well as your podcast platform of choice. Again, we have lots of episodes coming out. So we do our weekly podcast, The Other Side of Firewall, as well as I've had multiple interviews. I'm pretty much booked out till May. So I have like 3 or 4 interviews I still have to edit and release. So check those out as well. Yeah, appreciate you guys listening to us, and pick up the book, The Other Side of the Firewall. You can pick it up at theothersideofthefirewall.com. You can also look at cyber services that I provide at ramcyber.io. You can check me out at Rai Security Guy, pretty much on all the platforms, but LinkedIn is where I'm most active. Check out my website, ryanwilliamssenior.com, for all my projects. And you, Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Chris Avicon, last name spelled A Bacon.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.